And so we're going to keep fighting that because I am sick and tired of living in the province with the reputation for the highest child poverty rate. And you know, when I hear the highest child poverty rate, I go, let's connect the dots. They don't live on Mars, these kids. The reason we have the highest child poverty rate is because we have the highest poverty rate and their parents are poor. And that's why we have to fight for good paying jobs and to raise the minimum wage to $13, but that's not enough. We have to go higher. We have to fight for good jobs and training. We ask the government to change their policies and put people to work. I want to say a thank you tonight, a shout out tonight. You know, lots of times it's individuals who act with courage that actually change the world. And I was inspired by a teacher named Eric Munshaw. I don't know if he's here tonight, but he actually stood up and said, you know what? The conditions in my school are dangerous and I'm going to resign and stand up and speak out so that we get proper funding, so we have the funding in our schools to do the jobs properly for young people. We owe him a debt of thanks, Eric. And I was thinking about that. I think people like that just spend their whole life helping children grow up and young people get jobs. And you know, when they think about the order of BC, maybe he should get it next time. After all, he's probably more worthy than Gordon Campbell. You know, the government talks about training all the time now. It's like they just discovered it. It's a new fad. The truth is, this government spends billions of dollars in construction projects and there's no apprentices. Can you imagine? No apprentices. So we went to the government and said, you know what? It's time to walk the talk. Our demand is really simple. If we're going to spend public money building bridges, building roads, building schools, building hospitals, so let's build those with a guarantee that those people who build those companies have to have a minimum of 25% apprentices on that job. So when the job is finished, we haven't just built a bridge or a school or a hospital, we've built British Columbia and given young people a chance to get a decent job and decent skills. It's not too much to ask. How many of you went to ferry demonstration the other day? Another genius job-killing scheme by this government. They're going to cut 6,000 ferry routes. How many people depend on the ferries here? Put your hand up. You know, I got to understand this. I'm struggling with it, man. A lot of you do. I think the ferries are highways, aren't they? Aren't they the right of people to travel the province and to use the ferry system like we use the highway? I admit it. I have driven to Whistler a couple of times. I kept waiting for the toll booth. I couldn't find it. We spent $1 billion on that. Okay, sure. But we can't afford the $19 million to keep the ferries going and make sure people can get to work and tourists can get to where people have jobs. We brought out a study the other day. Novel idea is, let's build all the ferries in BC. What a novel idea. We have shipyards, we have people. We could do this. And so the study said, amazingly amount, that if you built the next 3 vessels in British Columbia, we create 1,000 jobs. The other part of this is you get $100 million in taxes. They're going to save $19 million laying off ferry workers and slashing services. I have a really good idea. Let's build the ferries in British Columbia, create 1,000 jobs, make $100 million in tax revenue, and increase the ferry service in British Columbia and have money left over for schools and hospitals. Now that's economic sense. You know, there's lots of battles ahead of us. And we know what it takes to win. Sticking together. Whether you're the truck drivers, the IKEA workers, or teachers, or the labor movement, all of us sticking together to do that. There's 2 events that are going to happen in the next year and a half that are going to change what happens in our country. The first one is municipal elections. And the Federation and the CLC are working hard on those elections again, as we have for a decade. I don't know about you, but I think municipal elections and local elections are important. I think those people are the front line of defending decent lives and decent communities. I think school boards can make a hell of a difference. Put your hand up if you don't want more Patty Bacchuses on school boards across the province. But the truth is, we can make a difference by participating in democracy. We need your help. You need to find people to run in municipal elections. It's a lot of work. But if we don't do it, who's going to do it? Do you leave it to all of the other folks that don't share our values to run these city councils, who want to contract out the work, to run school boards that aren't going to stand up to the government? No. We have to stand up and we have to participate and make sure in November there's over 300 or 400 labor supporting delegates representing us on school boards and in city councils all across the whole province. And you need to think about being one of them. You need to think about that because it's your job as leaders in your community to also be leaders in the union and in the community. Because when you think about it, my dream is to everybody would open their curtains and look out into their communities with the same values you have in the union. Of fairness, of justice, of equality, of decency, and we want to run our communities like we want to run our unions with those values. And after we finish that off and do a job there's one more thing we have to do. And let me tell you, it may be the most important thing we have to do in the next 12 or 15 months. If you love this country, if you care about what people built, if you think this is still a decent place to live, if you believe it's worth fighting for, then we have to collectively pledge ourselves to a single task. That single task is to make sure that Stephen Harper isn't the Prime Minister of Canada when we finish this job. Easy. They've got big money on their side. They'll spend millions and millions and millions of dollars telling people if we just cut more taxes, we'll have a better country. Telling people that the problem with the government is the public sector workers make too much money federally and we have to slash their wages and lay off 20,000 of them. And they're going to spend millions and we're going to have to roll up our sleeves and spend our sweat and blood to do this because we'll have to work hard, all of us. But if we win and we defeat this man, then we can make a different country, one more closely to what we want. So thank you very much for being here this week. Thank you very much for the work you do every day, making sure young people in this province have the opportunities they deserve by their right. And thank you for making sure that the labor movement is alive and well. Because I know together, united, we will make that better world that we talk about. So have a great convention, and